recognize the gentleman from Oregon, Mr. Bentz, for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thanks to the witnesses for this excellent hearing. Although I think the focus should be a little more on the opportunities that exist for folks on the smaller end of things. The reason I say that is because I am a member of a 5-generation ranch family from Oregon, and involved in the calf producing space for many, many, many years. And I've watched as the family operation, of which I'm no longer a part, has grown from 600 mother cows to something in the 4,000 to 5,000 mother cow range, which of course one would suggest to listen to today's hearing is some horrible example of consolidation. But in point of fact, it's a reflection of what's been happening in the agricultural arena for a very long time. And I would take us back to the 30s when some 25% of all Americans were engaged in one way or another in farming, or 7 million family farms then and down to 2 million now. And I would just say that that's consolidation. But in addition, the price of food over that period of time has declined from 17.5% of a family's budget in 1960 to around 9.9% today. And so when we're here talking about how awful it is that people are paying more for groceries, I would simply say, gosh, look back to 1960. And I don't want to go back there. That's my point. Now, this is not to say that the packers or the feedlot operators or the retailers are above reproach. They're not. But there are ways of, I think, approaching what we're talking about today that will advance the interests of the producers and the interests of the American people without bringing more government into it. And with that as kind of the background, I'd like to turn to, I'll take Dr. Manny for a moment and ask him about the addition of some additional packing capacity. As I understand it, plants were already being built somewhere across the United States, some actually in Idaho, new packing plants that would add to the capacity of the nation when it comes to packing and also alternative places to take your cattle, and ask if that is kind of a natural process of our economy, Dr. Manny.
Yeah, no, I think that's exactly right. When prices go up, of course, you see companies expanding to try to capitalize on that, and ultimately that drives prices down. Actually, in the meatpacking industry, it's sort of interesting. There's evidence to suggest that, there's been claims that following COVID and the price increases during COVID, the meatpackers have sort of artificially constrained supply, in an effort to capitalize on increased prices by increasing prices even more. And the best studies on this point out that not only did that not happen, but the level of market power that existed before the pandemic would have suggested vastly larger increases in price than actually happened. So what it tells me is, it seems like, and who knows exactly what is motivating this, the beef packing industry is I mean, again, no one is above reproach, and there certainly have been problems there and elsewhere. But generally speaking, with respect to the pandemic response, they've been increasing capacity as much as possible. They have not been trying to constrain capacity. They're literally building new capacity, and I think really responding in a very commendable sort of fashion to an emergency situation that was certainly not of their making.
And I might say this is not limited just because of the nature of today's hearing. It might mislead folks to think that it is. This is not this higher price situation we find ourselves in. I would just simply talk about computer chips for a moment. And how about the automobile industry and what's happened to the cost of a used car? And why don't we haul all of the used car dealers in here and accuse them of gouging? Because I just noticed the other day when I went out to look for a used car that the price was up 37%. And so where's the hearing? And why aren't we running around there? The reason, of course, is I think we all understand that because of COVID, there was a movement away from contracting for computer chips, and now we're reaping the harvest of not having the meager harvest of not having those computer chips made here in the United States, among other things. And Mr. Chair, I just want to say, as a member of a of a community that relies upon cow-calf producers. I want to emphasize the packing space is not above reproach, but I think adding more capacity in these smaller plants is a really good step in the right direction. They were already coming along before COVID, and I wish them the very best because I think broader markets are good for all of us. But breaking things up, I don't want to go back to the 1930s. And with that, Mr. Chair, I yield back.
I thank the gentleman for yielding back. And it's nice to hear a Republican member of this committee praising one of the Biden administration's initiatives on helping